Up next, a woman says they tried to warn people about Mayor Mamdani and how socialism would destroy New York.
Financial giants are not going to move from New York City to Texas. I currently live in Texas. I moved here from New York City, and everyone is saying right now that Texas is the next financial center, especially in light of yesterday's election results. This is not going to happen. You know whom financial giants moved to Texas? Operations. Back office. There are some front office jobs in Texas, but they are very minimal. Because most people who make the deals, who make money, the front office of big financial giants, do not want to move to Texas even when they are promised promotions. Why? Because Texas lacks infrastructure. It lacks the New York City lifestyle. It lacks the networking. New York City has clusters of talent, and it's so much easier to build a career in the East Coast in financial industries than it is in Texas. Not only that, big hedge funds prefer being closer to New York Stock Exchange because latency matters for high-frequency trading. If taxation and the cost of living were the main questions for financial giants, then Texas would have been the financial center a long time ago. You will see some movement here and there of front office professionals in the financial industries from New York City to Texas, but it will be very much minimal.
I think that she lacks the awareness of how different Republican states are doing their best to incentivize companies to move. And so the more that these liberal ran states and cities try and tax the rich, they're going to find themselves losing their major tax base, because if it makes financial sense, the rich is going to move. If the numbers make sense and you out-tax them from it being a good financial footing for them to remain where they are, you're going to lose that tax base. It just is what it is. The policies are too far left.
Listen guys, I keep trying to film a video about why Zohran Mamdani won last night, and it really just comes down to this. Young people do not fear socialism.
That's true.
It's not a dirty word for them, and that creates fear in my heart. So while I do not live in New York City, I feel very worried about these results. I also think that there's a huge cost of living crisis happening in America, and that's the result of decades of economic intervention. Socialism won't help. It's gonna make things worse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to find out the hard way.
Yes.
It's really upsetting to me that this seems like it's going to turn into a trend, and that my generation is going to continually vote for socialists to rule this country and our cities, and things are just gonna get demonstrably worse, as they did in Venezuela, as they did in Cuba, as they did in Bolivia, as they did in Argentina. Everywhere where this has been tried, socialism enters a honeymoon period for a few years while there's still wealth to extract from the economy, but then when there's none left, things go downhill really quickly.
Right.
It's not Zohran Mamdani's great smile and good vibes campaign. I get why that's attractive to people. I understand the allure, and I understand why people want politicians to talk about cost of living. But ultimately, I think we're just too sheltered from the real impact of socialism, and buckle up, America.
I don't think America has anything to worry about. I think America has the right or the best seats in the House to watch what goes on in New York. I think that this was eventually going to happen once they started putting restrictions on rental control in New York. So they started to limit the amount of money that developers can make. And so in turn created a housing crisis because developers were less interested in developing. So I think that once that fuse was lit, this was just the eventual outcome of everything. And so the crash must happen. And hopefully New York becomes a symbol of what not to do, and the rest of America learns it.
Hey, so what happens when New York City elects a socialist mayor who promises to tax the rich?
I don't know. What?
The New York Stock Exchange is moving out of New York and into Texas.
Of course, this is not true. The New York Stock Exchange is not moving its operations from New York to Texas. Not now and not ever. The New York Stock Exchange is expanding its footprint.
The New York Stock Exchange is doing so well that it's expanding its footprint. It's throwing Texas a bone.
And in fact, you're already late to the game on this one, sweetheart. It happened in March of 2025. The traditional New York Stock Exchange trading venue and headquarters remains in New York City. How stupid does someone have to be to actually believe this? How stupid does someone have to be to actually? I mean, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. And why would a Texan think that that was a good thing anyway? Do you think that New York became New York in a vacuum? Don't you think that a bunch of New York businessmen moving to Texas would mean that Texas would become more like New York? Do you really think all those New York businessmen are going to move to Texas and start kicking cow patties? Get the fuck out of here. And it's Mamdani, not Mamdani. You should learn how to pronounce it because you'll be saying it a lot.
Whatever you have to say to help you sleep at night is all right with me. But if you look at the way that New York is being ran, you would understand why Texas is doing things to try and attract that stock exchange on down to Texas. You think that this is just an expansion, but it looks more like a foot in the door to me. I'm just saying.
Congratulations, New York City. You just elected a 34-year-old TikTok DJ that wants free everything and responsibility for nothing. Zohran Mamdani is, well, your new mayor. Created crime control, business growth, and common sense for, well, rent freezes. And here's the best part. He's never been in charge of a city block before, and now he is in charge of the financial capital of the United States. You ask the progress, and what you're going to get is a mass exodus. Businesses gone, jobs gone, tourists avoiding New York City like the plague. The rich, they'll pack up and move to Florida while the rest of you foot the bill for the woke dreams that end in disaster every single time. Let's be clear, this is not historic. This is absolutely hysterical. You put a radical activist in charge during an insane housing crisis, during New York City's worst crime problem. Why? Because he had a viral video with AOC's approval. Get what you vote for in New York City? You know what you just voted for? Financial, cultural, and security collapse? Well, on a silver platter just for you. Mark my words, the Trump administration, they will have to step in. Because I assure you, this is not going to be live and let live politics. This is about the survival of a city that fuels the American economy. New York City, you better pray your next headline isn't Chapter 11.
I don't understand why people don't believe that New York City could ever falter or fall. Like, they have this insane belief that nothing could go wrong, so they operate and vote as such. And it's a shame that they're gonna have to learn it the hard way, but it will be interesting to watch, I'll tell you that much.
So I'm sure by now most of you have heard that Zohran Mamdani has won in New York and is going to be their next mayor coming in January.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you also know that he's going to change the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey and is going to tax the upper brackets at about an additional 2%. And for me, like, I'm just stuck thinking about how all the billionaires aren't going to be able to afford their 18th yacht. Fuck out of here.
It's sad that they see it that way, but that's not how billionaires calculate their money. It's just wherever mathematically makes more sense to reside. And so if you don't appreciate me here, I'll go where I'm appreciated. And you got states like Florida and Texas screaming to the mountaintops that you are appreciated. Come on down and let us appreciate you. It's attractive, and people like yourself are gonna have to learn the hard way. It ain't gonna be no more eat the rich. It's gonna be come stimulate our economy, please.
Wall Street and its financial migration. And why did New York City just take an L to the great state of Texas? Well, inquiring minds want to know. And the law enforcement OG, Keith, if you know me, I'm about to tell you.
Talk about it.
Because it finally happened. The New York Stock Exchange is packing up and headed down south to the great state of Texas. Now, this is a process because on February 12th, 2025, the NYSE officially filed the paperwork to move its operations from New York to Dallas, Texas. Why, you ask? Well, because Texas makes sense.
It does.
It does. Lower taxes, less regulations, and a government that actually likes good business, embraces it. Meanwhile, in New York, drowning in red tape, high taxes, and anti-business policies that drives companies away faster than a Wall Street trader at 5 o'clock on Friday. Yes, this isn't just a move. You know that, right?
Oh, I know. It looked like a step.
This is a clear message that America's financial future isn't in the Big Apple anymore.
It's in Texas.
It's in the deep heart of Texas, the great state of Texas. Maybe it's time to rename Wall Street from Wall Street to Y'all Street.
Yeah.
Anyway, Also, just so you know, that, you know, you cheered on your new mayor, had your little fun, but like I told many of you, ain't nobody playing with their money, because all they're going to do is move the money, move the businesses to places that are going to benefit these companies, because we over here are going to prosper, make money, and like our beloved president says, Donald J. Trump, we're going to make America great again.
That's right.
By worshiping our Lord in Christ, not Allah, okay? And embrace our culture, the American culture. And if you don't like that, take your ass where you come from. This is Keith, the Law Enforcement OG. Give me a follow, repost this message, and if you're a crazy liberal, definitely come over here and speak your piece, because I just don't give a shit no more. I'm out.
Man, shout out to law enforcement, man, and all my law enforcement friends. You heard, man. He said something so powerful. A lot of people think that you are smarter than the rich, and you can just find a way to take their money from them, and they're just gonna sit there and let you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't register in your head. Like, in order for them to get rich, they have to have some level of high intellect or something. So they're not gonna just sit there and allow you to tax them to death. And the states like Florida and Texas knows that.
At the end of the day, young, college-educated white people elected this guy. And that is the beginning of a wave that will sweep over America. And I really do worry about where this takes us.
Way to go, dummies. Yeah, I think what's happened is that Zohran Mamdani is very smart and is running a playbook to win, like all politicians do, based on a formula that has been winning in large cities for the past decade. And so I don't know if he really believes in this rhetoric or not, but it's worth noting that most of his platform is copied and pasted from London and Chicago. So the things that he's talked about, universal basic free meals, affordable housing, freezing the cost of transportation, public grocery stores, all three of you are reacting like these things were pulled out of thin air. They're not. These were the public platforms of the mayors who have won in London, in Vienna, in Havana, Cuba, and in Chicago. So I think the reason why this works is that these are small pockets in the end of a large political spectrum. Even though New York feels big, it isn't that big in the context of the United States. And what you see is that when you try to take those policies in a city, take London, and then level it up at the national level, there's a quick schism that happens. So if you look at Labour and Labour trying to scale up the policies of a Sadiq Khan in London throughout the country, Labour is now at the absolute lowest approval ratings in the UK of any party ever in this moment in time after an election. So I think what you're probably seeing is quite a sophisticated A/B test. And I think that the political wingmen and the money people that want to be in control know how to run candidates on platforms that can win. And this is a clear winning strategy in left-leaning major metropolitan centers. I've seen it for the last decade. I think you're going to see it for the next few decades. It doesn't work. And so you're going to see the same results in New York City that you've already seen in London, which has become unlivable, sadly, one of my favorite cities in the world. If you don't believe it, go visit there. Chicago, which I haven't been to in 15 years and will never go to, it's a disaster. So my point is, it just doesn't work. So you can win. It actually isn't very effective, and it doesn't scale to the national level. So
when do you think it returns, Chamath? Like, what's the reversal? Like, do you think the reversal is everyone has some experience with crime? Is the reversal like the city's bankrupt? Is the reversal
your house is burned down?
You're unemployed.
Look,
unemployment hits a
no
certain level. Like, what is
firefighters with water in the pipes?
I'll tell you something, which is my view. My view is much more basic. It's much less sophisticated than I think what you're saying. My extremely simpleton view of things is that humans swing in a pendulum-like fashion between poles. And over multi-decade arcs, you go between the thing that works to the thing that should work now because it's not the thing before. So I suspect what happens is that New York takes a 40 or 50-year journey, and at some point, it will look like New York of the 80s. And at that point, you'll have an Ed Koch-like figure, you'll have a David Dinkins-like figure, You'll have a Michael Bloomberg-like figure. You'll have the broken windows theory of policing reemerge as the cause célèbre. And the cycle will repeat itself. Mm-hmm. So I tend to think that these things are just between two poles. We've spent a lot of time in this more independent self-reliance pole. A lot of people will want to experiment with this other thing. It just doesn't prove to work. And in the absence of something cataclysmically bad, I don't think it's going to change.
Basically, what he's saying is what we're experiencing with New York because of its prominence back in the day is the ebb and flow of the market. So New York is going to have to go through this ebb and flow where it was once up and now it's down. And so this is just going to be one of those times where we see New York on the low end, and they're going to have to be incentivized to rise to prominence because of how much success they've experienced in the past.
Let's talk about this. Let me explain why the billionaire exodus fairy tale that gets trotted out every time a progressive candidate wins an election isn't true. Business leaders have been arguing that Mamdani is going to drive wealthy New Yorkers out, and that's been like one of their big strategies all throughout the campaign. But here's the thing about rich people and cool cities. They're basically in a committed relationship. This is the same as people who say they're going to move to Canada post-election, or they're going to move to Australia, or they're going to relocate. Maybe a couple do. Basically, people don't. Every single time a city or country proposes higher taxes or progressive policies, the wealthy clutch their pearls and threaten to leave, but historically, they do not. When Bill de Blasio, a progressive, became mayor in 2014, promising to tax the rich, guess what? New York City's billionaire population increased. When France raised taxes on the wealthy, a handful left for PR purposes, most of them quietly came back. These people have accountants, not U-Hauls on speed dial. The reality is that cool cities can charge whatever they want, because here's the comfortable truth for the I'll just move to Miami crowd. New York, London, Paris, Sydney, Milan, probably San Francisco, anywhere else, they aren't just cities, they're global power centers. You can't network with other billionaires, close deals, or flex your penthouse views from like Tampa or wherever they're saying they're going. These cities have the best restaurants, culture, nightlife. Billionaires aren't wanting to give up their private tables or whatever. They're actually seats of financial and cultural power. They're social scenes where real influence happens, and there's prestige. No one's wanting to say, I live in Wyoming for tax purposes, which doesn't hit the same as saying, I have a townhouse in the West Village.
Do you honestly believe that billionaires have not traveled the world and don't have estates in all places? They have houses in Florida, they have houses in Texas, California, Milan, everywhere. So it's nothing for them to move over there and make that their primary residence. It's not about what's cool, because they can still frequent New York and socialize in New York as if they live there, but move their residence and their business to another state. And the reason why what she's saying don't make any sense is because it's not based off of how they feel or what feels cool. It's based off of numbers. If it makes mathematical sense for me to move my business or corporation down south because the tax incentive there is so appealing that it brings in more revenue, then that's what I'm gonna do, because my primary focus is the shareholders. So she sounds ridiculous, but I'm gonna let her keep going.
Rich people pay premium prices to live in cool cities for the exact same reason they pay $500 for designer t-shirts. Status and access matter far more than the price tag. And then aside from the general advantages of being in cool cities, there are New York specific advantages. It is the financial capital of the world. It's where media, fashion, arts, and culture happen. These billionaires already have kids in New York City private schools. Their entire social and professional network is in New York. Their businesses and investments are deeply rooted in New York City. Moving isn't just expensive, it's career and social suicide for most of them. Let's be really honest, none of them want to admit to their other billionaire friends that a tax increase in New York is going to make life hard for them. That would be too embarrassing. And where are they going to go? Greenwich, Connecticut? No. That's where you move when you're done with New York City. And these are people who want to stay in the city right now. The real talk is that Mamdani wants to freeze rent on rent-stabilized units, enact universal childcare, create a free bus program, and launch city-run grocery stores. And yes, he is going to raise taxes on some of the wealthiest New Yorkers to pay for it. But what won't happen is a mass exodus. Because at the end of the day, billionaires don't optimize for tax rates. They optimize for power, influence, and being where things happen. And things happen in New York City. And that hasn't changed just because Zohran has won the election. The will leave threat is a negotiating tactic. It's the geopolitical equivalent of a toddler holding their breath. Just smile and nod and watch them keep living in their Fifth Avenue apartments.
You would think that she has this inside scoop on billionaires' mindset, but this is someone who probably lives with her parents, giving her 2 cents on what her perception of a mindset of a billionaire is. Now, I don't pretend to know a bunch of billionaires, but I know for a fact that billionaires have residence all over America. They frequent and fly all over the place. Millionaires do that.
Everybody shut the fuck up. Hey, shut the fuck up. Let me tell you something right now.
If you made it this far, check out the one we just did with Ask a Brother podcast, where he was talking to a young queen about who to blame for the lack of communication.